David W. Williams, also known as the retail trader, going to talk about the secret to success that you're never supposed to figure out. And what we're going to break down in this video is some of the steps that I used to become successful, where I was not very successful. I was at a low point in my life. And some of the things that I've implemented to become successful, some of the things that I've implemented to be a benefit and a blessing and be able to help develop other people in what they were trying to do, and how I was able to figure out to have some level of success after years of failure. And I didn't do it by robbing people. I didn't do it by vulturing other people. I didn't do it by keeping people down while I made myself bigger. I didn't have to do any of those things. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And a lot of what we're going to talk about in this video is what we utilize in retailtrader.net to help develop traders and to really help turn traders into what we call operators, which are going to be people that really understand how to operate in the market without falling victim to a lot of things that the average person falls victim to while they're trying to learn how to trade. However, the principles that we're going to talk about can help you in life, even if you decide that you do not want to get involved in trading the markets. The principles we're going to talk about in this video could still be beneficial to you. So that's who this video is made for. Everybody else can fall victim to what we're going to kind of talk about in this video. So I want to encourage you to look at retailtrader.net. We're going to be releasing R2-3, probably either this month or maybe next month, and it will continue to build out. But the goal now is to produce operators and not people that just trade on emotion and how they feel when they wake up in the morning. And we're going to kind of talk about some of the principles that are going to allow you to look at the market from that particular perspective. Now, let's get right back to it. So we're talking about the secret to success you're never supposed to figure out. So here's what's going on in the world. And I've witnessed this in teaching people. I've witnessed this in my own life. I've witnessed this in consulting with people. I've been in this space working to really develop people in real life before the internet for a very, very long time. What most people are doing is that many people are tortured because they think they have the answers and the people around them are clueless. And it did not become, or that has not become as apparent. That did not become as apparent until social media really started to blow up. And people had the ability to corral themselves and put themselves inside communities. And they all pretty much sit inside the community and complain about things. And they really complain about the fact that they're disappointed and they're displeased with their life because they think the world should be a certain way. And they don't understand why the people around them don't see it the same way. And then what they've been able to do is find community on the internet with other people who think the world should be a certain way. And they also don't understand why the people around them are clueless. And if you can organize and be successful organizing those people, you can be very, very successful on the internet, especially in the political space, but also in the relationship space, maybe even also in the scam space. You can really organize people around the fact that they think they have the answers and the people around them are clueless. And for the majority of people, that's where their life is going to stop. That's where their consciousness will stop. That's where their revelation will stop. They'll stay hamster wheeling at that level of consciousness to the day that they die. Therefore, if they come to this revelation that I have these ideas around how I think the world should work, or I believe I have the answers, and they come to that particular revelation at 25 years old, they'll die at 80 at that same place. And so they'll build everything else in life, but they'll still die with that same idea to where I believe I have the answers and the people around me are clueless. And that's just going to be it. I have come in contact with a lot of people, but especially since I started teaching the markets to people who are absolutely brilliant, but the background that they came from, they were not supposed to be able to understand what they're involved in. My first student that I taught the markets to, she wasn't supposed to be able to understand the markets at the level that she did. You want to know why she was able to do it? Because it was always in her. She didn't grow up in an environment where they were looking to develop her in that particular area. But it was always in her. I've met a lot of people in this space, primarily Black people, who they have a talent for understanding how the markets actually work in real life. But because of their background, where they were raised, their socioeconomic situation, they were never supposed to be able to understand certain things. And so therefore, if the information was never presented to them, they would have never known that they could understand these spaces and be successful in these spaces. What a lot of people are dealing with, and I'm going to say this, is they're a little bit smarter than the people around them, but they don't know what to do to really get to that next level. They know that they're a little bit smarter than the people around them. They feel like that. They feel like, hey, I'm a little bit smarter than my peers. I'm a little bit smarter than the people I come in contact with on a day-to-day basis. But I often don't know what to do to get to that next level. So they're tortured by the fact that they think they're smarter than everybody else, but they really kind of don't know what to do to get to that next level. And so what happens is a lot of times they find themselves in social media, inside some type of ecosystem or rabbit hole, just complaining about life. Because they're not doing anything, they just think it's enough to just be conscious. I want you to understand something, because I'm older than some of y'all. That whole conscious thing has been around a very, very long time. That's the first stage. The first stage to change is awareness, is being conscious. That's only the first stage. And that's not the only stage. Many people stay at the first stage. That's like a 600-pound person saying, I know I need to lose weight. Now that you've accepted that you need to lose weight, now what are you going to do? But they'll just keep saying, I know I need to lose weight. Oh, I know I need to exercise. So many people are satisfied with just feeling like they know something. And then they try to find other people that they can agree with on the fact that they know something. Now, it doesn't mean that what they know is true. Let me give an example. I spent a lot of time today going back and forth with a language learning model on how the markets actually work and structure the markets and things of that nature. Today, even today in 2026, with this information available to you, people will say we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. If you ask them, then whose responsibility is that markets function properly? They'll stop talking. But they think they know something. And so what they do is they will go find a rabbit hole with a bunch of people that think we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve, because none of them really understand enough about markets to answer the question, well, who's going to be responsible for markets function properly? The problem that a lot of people have is that you are a little bit smarter than the people around you, but you're not as smart as you think you are. And so what you do is you organize yourself and you find a community of people, and all of you are not as smart as you think you are. But then y'all relay the same ideas back to each other, and then you leave thinking you're still smart. So I want you to understand something. It's very easy to say, hey, I'm smarter than the average person, or I got access to this information, or I think I know this. And then go find a bunch of people and y'all relay that back to each other. But really, in real life, you're not as smart as you think you are a lot of times. You really don't understand the full picture. Because if a person thinks we should get rid of the Federal Reserve, and then when you ask them, okay, who's going to be responsible for markets functioning properly, and they don't know what to say, it's because they don't understand enough about the full picture. Because once you pull the Fed out, then who's responsible for markets functioning properly? I don't know, because I don't even know what a market is. I just believe that my life is the way it is because of the Federal Reserve. And I've told myself this, and then I find other people to agree with me on this, and they also believe this, that their life looks this way because of the Federal Reserve. And then we all get into a rabbit hole. We relay this back to each other. So this is what's going on with a lot of people, is that they're tortured because they think they have the answer, and they believe the people around them are clueless, but they really don't truly understand the full picture. But most people don't understand the full picture. They really don't. So this is why they get an idea at 24, 25, 26, and they die with that same idea. Nothing ever happens. What separated me from the pack is I had an idea, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to go out here in the real world, and I'm going to execute on the idea. I'm not just going to sit around and talk about it. What helped me was that I started before all this social media blew up. So there was nobody for me to talk about this stuff with. So either I was going to be tortured by the idea, or I was going to do something. But I couldn't go on YouTube or go on Twitter or go on Discord and talk to people endlessly about this type of stuff. It just wasn't available to me. So I either had to be tortured by the idea or go do something about it. First thing you want to do, you got to make your mind up that this is not it. What's stopping a lot of people from changing their life is they haven't made their mind up that this is not it. There's a video, and I don't want to show it because I don't want to get my YouTube taken down, by this artist named Kid Art. Y'all might know who Kid Art is. He out of New York City. He does visuals, right? In music videos, right? Cold artist, like a really cold artist. Been around a minute. He's a very cold artist. If I had the bread, I would hire him to do stuff for me. At the beginning of this particular video, there's this audio, and the guy says, you have to make your mind up that you want to be rich. That's what he's talking about. You have to make your mind up that you want to be rich. A lot of you, or many of you that are struggling, you haven't made your mind up that what you're going through is not it. You just haven't made your mind up yet. That this, like what I'm going through and this stuff that I'm dealing with, like this is not it. This ain't where it's at. And therefore, until you make your mind up that this is not it, not that you can deal with it, no, this is not it. You're going to continue to figure out a way to just get through the situation. I'm not saying that it's not things in life that you're not going to have to go through. What I'm saying is that if you really displeased with your life, you don't like the way your life is looking, you haven't made your mind up that this is not it. Just like that 600-pound person. I don't know how you sit around and be 600 pounds. I don't get it. I don't know how you do it. But for somebody that's 600 pounds, until they decide that being 600 pounds is not it, they're going to just still be 600 pounds. Nothing's going to change. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Many people have not made their mind up that this is not it. They haven't. They say that they're displeased with stuff. They say that they don't like stuff. They say that they don't like the way situations are going, but they haven't really made their mind up that this is not it. They just haven't. And so because they haven't made their mind up that this is not it, nothing's going to change because they haven't made their mind up. So they'll be upset about something, go to bed, wake up the next day, go through the same thing, and they just do that over and over and over and over and over again. And then again, because they can find a rabbit hole, a Discord, a Twitter page, or go in Lipstick Alley, go in Shade Room, go into the blogs and emote with a bunch of other people, they feel better for the time being and nothing changes because now they have a way of releasing everything they're upset about. But they haven't made their mind up that this is not it. Like this is not, I don't like how this is going. I'm gonna go do something about it. They haven't made their mind up. Now they'll hold other people to that standard when it comes to them, but when it comes to them themselves doing it, they won't do it. They just want to hold somebody else to it. So what really changes for people is you got to make your mind up that this is not it. Not with other people, for yourself. Because again, most people will do it for somebody else. When it comes to them, they got an excuse why, I'm going to just deal with it for a little bit longer. Well, you need to start counting your calories. If you claim you want to lose weight, I'll start next week. But when it's somebody else, you want it to be right now today. Well, you need to go file your taxes. I'll do them next month. But when it's somebody else, you want it to happen right now today. So you haven't made your mind up that what you're going through, that's not it. So until you do that, nothing's going to change. That's just the reality. You got to make your mind up that this is not it. Next one, accept that you're going to have to change. So again, the social media and the internet teaches you that all your problems are being caused by somebody else. And if you just adjust your relationship to that person, you'll get the life that you want. But again, if everybody does that, then what happens? See, this is where we don't teach people logic. If everybody is somebody else's problem, and then if everybody does something about the other person, then what happens? So eventually you got to be the situation. Because if everybody else is somebody else's problem, then you're somebody else's problem at the same time. Because everybody is somebody else's problem. So that means you're somebody else's problem. But because we don't really teach people really rigorous logic and they're able to get college degrees and get out of school and the whole 9 yards, and they haven't really been taught a rigorous logic program, that makes sense to them. Because the government don't want you thinking like that, because then you're going to give them problems. So the problem is that many people won't accept that they have to change, not a relationship to somebody else. No, they just need to change. So what has helped me is I realize there's a lot of things about my life that don't work. And the reason why I'm in the situation that I am is because of the things that I am doing. And I had to accept that. It wasn't nobody else. It was me. Because if you wake up every day and you got certain thoughts on your brain, that's on you. That ain't on nobody else. You wake up every day with certain ideas on your brain, and then you go execute on those ideas. That's you. That's not another person. So until you decide that what you want to do is actually go change your life, you said that I'm not tired of the life that I'm living because I don't need to change something about my life. Everybody else need to change, or I need to change my relationship to them. So cutting everybody off but staying the same person don't change your life. That doesn't change your life. That's what the internet is telling you, but that doesn't change your life. If I cut everybody else off, but I continue to do what I'm doing, it don't change my life. If I weigh 600 pounds and I block everybody because I got boundaries, and I block everybody because I want to protect my peace, I'm still 600 pounds though. Right? If I can't put the weed down and I block everybody because I can't put the weed down, and I put up boundaries on everybody because I can't put the weed down, I'm still by myself and I can't put the weed down. So when people don't accept they have to change and everybody else is their problem, that's the real issue. Because the internet feeds into your problem is everybody else, not that you have to change, because you can't make money on people telling them they got to change. You only can make money by telling people, here's how you organize your life around everybody else and your relationship to them, because they're your problem. Now you're the problem. Because if everybody is somebody else's problem, that means you're somebody else's problem. So what changed my life is accepting, here's these areas of my life in which I'm deficient in. For me to get to this level of success that I say I want, I got to change. So I talked about in earlier videos, I missed out on a lot of opportunities because I smoked a lot of marijuana. And so there was opportunities that I could not even pursue because I was smoking a lot of marijuana. That wasn't on the people I was hanging around. It wasn't on the person that was selling me the marijuana. Y'all do not know how hard I worked because I was so deep into the game, what I had to do to get that real good marijuana. Like I went above and beyond because that stuff ain't easy to get. It's a different era now. When I was coming up, you couldn't get that stuff easy. Wasn't no dispensary to go to. You had to know people. So I accepted that I need to change my behavior, because here's the thing. Once you change your behavior, everybody else around you will change. I don't know anybody that smoked marijuana. You want to know why? Because I don't smoke. There was a time where everybody I knew smoked marijuana. Because why? I smoked all the time. I know a few people that drink, but I don't know a lot of people that drink because why? I don't go out drinking because I don't drink. So what happens is if you change, the people around you will change, because y'all really don't have a lot in common anymore because you change your life. But a lot of people have bought into everybody else needs to be a different person for me, or I cut them off and I don't need to change nothing about my life. But that's not how this thing really goes. And so that's the work that a lot of people don't want to do, is they don't want to change their life. They want to hear a good message. They want to hear somebody, affirm them. They want to hear a good word, but the work that they need to do to change their life, because they don't believe anything's wrong with them. They believe something's wrong with everybody else because that's what they get taught through the internet. Next one, you got to act on being better at reading comprehension. What I would encourage anybody that really wants to improve themselves as a person is you got to get better at reading, and you got to get better at comprehending what you read. You have to get better at taking the actual theme of a situation and pulling it out of the text. Because a lot of people struggle with this. And as we go deeper and deeper into artificial intelligence and the internet, there's going to be a big divide from people that can read and comprehend and people that can't. And I would encourage anybody to really, really focus on getting better at reading comprehension. A lot of what I do comes from my ability to read and comprehend what I'm reading. And so as artificial intelligence starts to really take away a lot of really easy jobs from people, like a lot of really easy clerical and administrative jobs. I'm dealing with a person right now in a certain space professionally. I can look at what this person does and know in 5 years they won't have their job doing that. Because I was waiting for them to call me back. I took some of the information they gave me, I put it into a language learning model, and I asked the language learning model the question, and the language learning model gave me the answer. So in 5 years, we won't need that person anymore, because all they're gonna do is answer the question that the language learning model will answer that question at 3 o'clock in the morning. Many people struggle reading comprehension because why? They don't read. They just watch videos all day. That's gonna come back to bite them in the ass. So I would encourage everybody to get better at reading comprehension. Like really, really do that. Because I think that's going to give you an advantage over the majority of the population as we start pushing towards the end of this decade. Next one, execute on getting slop out of your life. That's big. Me, I don't listen to the same type of music I used to listen to. Still listen to a little bit of it, but not as much as I used to. I don't watch the same type of TV shows. You're talking to somebody. I have not owned a television since probably 2019. I don't own a TV. I own a monitor, but I don't own a TV. Do I watch certain shows here and there? I do, but I don't own a TV. I'm not even going to watch the game this weekend. I never liked the Patriots ever in my life. And I really don't care about Seattle. So there's no reason for me to watch that game. So I'll probably catch some of the highlights while it's on, but there's no way in the world I'm going to sit down and watch two teams I really don't care about just because it's a Super Bowl. Like I said, I don't own a TV. I watch a show here and there with certain shows I like, but there is no show that really comes on every week that I got to watch. And there's no game that comes on every week that I got to watch. And I'm a person who used to watch sports all the time. I watch Miami play A&M. I watched them play Ohio State, and I watched them play Ole Miss, and I watched them play the national championship game. I was really tired of watching football after that because I hadn't watched football that much in years because I don't watch football like that anymore. So me watching Miami play like 4 games straight, watching the whole game, that was a lot of football for me. What I want to encourage people to do is get a lot of slop out of your life. A lot of y'all have slop in your life. And what you're doing is you trying to mix it to fix it. A lot of y'all don't know what that means. Some people do know what it means. You trying to mix it to fix it. And life don't work that way. I can't watch pornography and then think I'm going to be in a healthy relationship with a woman. It don't work that way. Right? A lot of y'all trying to mix a lot of stuff to fix it. It don't work that way. And so you got a lot of slop in your life. You have a lot of stuff that you ingest and you don't realize that's impacting your life because you haven't got it out of your life. And you don't want to get out of your life because you like it. So you think I can manage this stuff and still be solid in these other areas. It's very difficult. Because I know that a lot of times, just for me personally, a lot of the stuff that I was involved in was like the soundtrack to my lifestyle. When I changed my lifestyle, that stuff didn't make sense anymore. So I would encourage people, and it's going to be very difficult because they're going to continue to increase this more and more, is to get a lot of slop out of your life. A lot of people just consume mindless, brainless stuff because it makes them feel good at the moment. And then they think they're going to be able to move to like a serious situation that's going to be very intellectual and very high level, and they're going to be able to operate. But it's very difficult because you're going back and forth all the time. And you don't realize the impact that a lot of that slop has on your life. You just think, it's just something that I'm just doing for the time being. That's like the person that start off doing dope on the weekend because they just having fun and they end up a crack addict in a few years. Just take time. Because it never start off full blown. It start off lightweight and then you build up. Because you thinking, I'm just finna do it on the weekend, Next thing you know, you full blown with it. Because that's how it starts. So what I want to encourage people to do, if you really say you're trying to really get to a certain level of success, it's certain things you just got to get out of your life. And you know what it is because you know what you're doing. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know your life and I don't know what you're doing. But you know what it is and you know what you're doing. And you got to get some of that stuff out of your life. Because a lot of people trying to mix it to fix it. And it's not working, but they're going to keep trying because they haven't decided this don't work. So they're going to keep trying to mix it to fix it. Right? And the people that know what I mean by saying mix it to fix it, they know what I mean. That's an old saying, been around forever, but it means something. They trying to mix it to fix it. It's hard to do. but a lot of people think they can get away with it, right? And so, Rick James, right? Same thing. Start off a certain way, and then next thing you know, you full blown with it. Next thing you know, that's what take you up out of here. So this has happened to people over and over again for decades, but people still think they're going to be the one person where that's not going to happen to them. Let me talk about something real quick when we talk about this slop. So here's a really, really good book that you can read. Came out a long time ago. I read it when it was already an old book. He had been out for over a decade when I finally read it. Been around forever. Covey passed away, I want to say maybe not over a decade ago, right? This is a really, really good book that a lot of people don't talk about anymore because, again, everything's on the internet. So a lot of people have taken what this guy put in this book and they've created whole platforms on the internet with his principles. And it's cool. That's just how things work these days. But we're going to talk about pleasure-seeking people, right? So Stephen Covey contrasts pleasure-seeking, which is instant gratification and short-term satisfaction, with pursuing meaningful, principle-centered living, which is going to be long-term fulfillment and effectiveness. So he argues that a focus on immediate pleasure leads to an empty, constantly dissatisfied experience, right? So here's Covey's views on pleasure seeking. Superficial satisfaction provides no deep, lasting fulfillment. The bigger high cycle, a person centered on pleasure constantly gets bored, leading to a continuous chase for the next new pleasure that has to be bigger, better, and more exciting. So this creates an almost narcissistic state where all of life is interpreted in terms of immediate pleasure to provide to the self. Instant gratification versus long-term goals. The modern world often encourages instant gratification, which conflicts with the time and energy investment required for important, non-urgent quadrant 2 tasks like long-term planning and personal skill development. Wasting potential. This constant pursuit of fun and undisciplined leisure can lead to lethargy and gradual wasting of one's talents and potential for more meaningful things in life. This is why a lot of people that think they have the answers are stuck, because they just are engaged in pleasure-seeking behavior. What's going to make me feel good right now? I got a full day at work. Now I'm off work. Let me doom scroll to feel better the next 2 to 3 hours till I get ready to go to bed. But you don't never work on anything that's going to improve your life. What can I watch that's going to make me feel good right now? What can I involve in that's going to make me feel good right now? What can I pay attention to that's going to make me feel good right now? And not thinking about what do you need to be involved in that's going to be a benefit to you long term. And he wrote this book in 1989. Wasn't no internet back then. Wasn't no social media. Now this is even more widespread because you have all these different outlets for you to get involved in. So now it's everywhere. So there's always something for you to be doing outside of what you need to be doing. And it'll make you feel better for the time being. So it's easy to, be involved in all this stuff. I was reading something on the internet today, and the person said, I watched this person to get news, and then I watched this other person to get entertainment. The problem is a person that they're watching to get news from is an entertainer. They can't tell the difference. They think a person reacting to TikTok videos is giving them news. I feel bad for that person because they can't tell the difference. And this person puts out videos like all day. Like they just don't stop. I don't know what's going on. And so that's the problem, is that everything is what's going to make me feel good right now, and not what do I need to be looking on that's going to be benefit to me long term. So I would encourage everybody to just get some of this slop out of your life. And you know what it is. I don't know what it is. Next one, make your mind up. You'll finish projects even if you fail. Somebody asked me today about the weekend stock market talk. I informed them that show's done. I did that show for 5 years. It never caught on. For the time being, it's canned. We can the program. They do it in television all the time. You put a show out. If it don't get certain type of numbers, we can it. I ran that show for 4 or 5 years. It never got over 200 views. That's the end of that project for the time being. So even though it failed, what did we do? We completed the project. I didn't do it for 2 weeks and quit. I didn't do it for 90 days and quit. I did it for 5 years. Never got over 200 views. Candid, just like they do in production. And they cut TV shows way faster than that. You do 3 episodes and them numbers don't look a certain type of way. They can't because they can't sell ads on it. And what I want to tell people is make up you're going to finish projects even if you failed. I don't feel like we can stock market as a failure, but at the same time, we didn't get the numbers and the traction that we desired to when we started the project. Just didn't work. I wanted to do live streams and have the live streams like a community. That didn't work. So even though we're doing a live stream now, as we push deeper and deeper into 26, we're going to drop just more recorded videos. Because the live stream process of doing live streams and creating a community like I've seen on other platforms, it just didn't work for these type of topics. Because I remember I did a video on women's reproductive health. Man, the chat was going so fast, I couldn't even read it. Because that was a topic a lot of people really want to talk about. I'm not going to sit around here and talk about women's reproductive health every week. That's not the sector that I'm in. Therefore, it was not a success to create a community around these type of topics using the live stream format. It wasn't a success, but we did it for like 5 years straight. So what we're going to move to now is we're still going to do some lives. We're going to do primarily just recorded videos. So the concept of creating a community around it, that's going to be dead. However, we didn't stop doing it after 3 weeks of doing it or after 3 months of doing it. We did it over and over. We changed this. We manipulated this. We tried to come this way. We did a bunch of different things to try to see, can we get traction with it? We didn't get traction. I had artificial intelligence go through my whole channel and tell me what I was doing wrong with my channel. Because artificial intelligence said your biggest videos are not even market-based videos. They're not. So you got to change some things in regard to that. But most people never finish projects. They never do. But they think they know so much. And they got so much of a perspective. And they got so much of an opinion. But when it's time to execute on a project based on what they think they know about the world, they can't finish. They never bring the project to the end. They can't. Because again, something else comes up that seems more interesting and fun than working through the project, even if it fails. Because you can learn something from that and apply it to your next situation. So that's what I want you to. So this is why I meet a lot of people that think they know so much and they think da 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 da. But when it comes to nuts and bolts, they're not going to follow through with the stuff. They just talking, which is cool. I know that already. But what I want to tell you is that because the majority of people are in the boat of just talking, and they've been organized by people that are going to allow them to just talk. If you just go through, because so many people are going to get lost in the sauce, and you're seeing the scale of people that's going to get lost in the sauce. You don't even really got to be no brilliant type person to be successful in America. You got to be a brilliant type person to be successful in Nigeria. That's why Nigerians leave and go somewhere else. But in America, you really don't have to be no brilliant type person. If you live in a relatively developed city, you don't live in Mississippi, unfortunately for them. You don't live in Arkansas. You live in a relatively developed city in a relatively developed state. You can be successful if you just lock in and focus and cut a lot of this stuff out that you never needed. Because I'm older than some of y'all. I'm telling you, when I was 20 years old, I lived a full life without any social media. We was living life, enjoying life, having things. It wasn't no social media, bro. It never imagined in my head I was going to have to go to the internet to have fun. We was having fun in the real world, going to barbecues, going to the beach, going to parties. I was down in Miami going crazy. No social media, bro. No camera phones, none of that stuff. We was living life. People older than me would tell you that the 70s was popping. Wasn't no social media. So people think you can't cut this stuff out. But people lived for years and didn't have none of this stuff. It was living their life. The whole disco era with no social media. Right? The origins of hip hop, no social media. None of this stuff existed. So what I'm telling you is that many people are so distracted. They so lost in the sauce. If you're just a little bit better than them and you got some type of staying power, you're going to beat them. Because they're going to get caught up in who the next president is. They're going to get caught up in what flashed across their social media and what this person, they're going to get caught up in that stuff. I told people, Don Lemon, a millionaire, he walked into jail and walked out of jail. He gonna use that story to make himself big in media because, you know, he got fired from CNN. So now he's trying to figure out what's gonna be his next come up. He gonna use this as his comeback story. The government tried to come against me, yada, 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 yada. I'm not nothing against him. It's media. But I'm not finna get caught up in that stuff. That man got more money than me. He good. And he just going to try to use us as a stepping stone to his next situation in media because, you know, he hasn't retired. He's still in media. So why when, oh, they took him to jail? I'm worried about them people that they really don't have nothing on at all, or they got a mistaken identity and they got them locked up. That's the tragedy because they don't have the money like Don Lemon. But they not finna get me hyped up on what happened to Don Lemon, a situation that really low key, you put himself in the situation, trying to get a name. So you got one. But that was supposed to be the story. Then now they got another story. Now Nicki Minaj supposed to be. You can't get caught up in this stuff, bro. Nicki Minaj worth north of $50 million. She got her money. I don't care what she do. She got to do something. She not even supposed to be over here. You see what I'm saying? So all these people are working in their best interests, but they got you worrying about them. I'm not saying that you can't be fans of people. I'm not saying that you can't know what's going on. But most people are so invested in this other stuff, they can't get their life together. But they claim they know something. And they claim nobody else don't know nothing. So that's what I want you to understand. If you can just finish projects, even if they fail, I'm telling you about 2 failures that I had on social media trying to build out a platform. It don't change nothing about what I'm finna go do. We're going to keep pushing till we can't push no more. And then if that worked, then I just go do something else. But we ran it to its conclusion. Okay, that didn't work. Let's come at it from this angle. Because it did work on some level. It just didn't work the way I wanted it to work. But it did work on some level. We had a level of success. But I didn't quit in 90 days. Didn't do that. Let's keep going because I want to be here too long. Be relentless with consistency. So again, what is going to separate you from other people is you're relentless with your consistency. Most people think they know something. They think they got all the answers. They consistent with running their mouth. After that, they ain't gonna do nothing else. They consistent with running their mouth. They all over the place. They're gonna jump here and there, and that's all they're gonna do. But the real work they need to do to become successful, they're not gonna do it. So again, if you just do that, you'll beat most people. Just be consistent because they're gonna fall off over the course of time. I'm not saying that sometimes you ain't got to adjust things. I'm not saying sometimes that you got to pivot, but there needs to be some consistency in what you're doing over a certain amount of time. Not a drop off, not a fly by nighter, which a lot of people are. They fly by nighters. That's why their whole life story is they was over here doing this. They was over here doing this. And nobody, they don't have a length of time with nobody, working with nobody. Because why? They're a fly by nighter. That's their resume. So be relentless with consistency. What can you do consistent to change the situation for yourself and your people? Not, I'm always looking for the next thing. Because that's what's getting people defeated. But they don't want to hear that. They want to hear about the new thing. Next one. Lead when appropriate, follow when appropriate, never just float with the crowd. I know how to lead when it's appropriate. I know how to follow when it's appropriate, but I don't float with the crowd. That's what I used to do when I was a lot younger. I used to just float with the crowd. I was just in the mix and I wasn't getting no results. I was getting what everybody else was getting. And so most people don't know how to lead when it's appropriate. There's a time in which you need to lead. There's a time in which you need to follow somebody else's leadership. And there's another time where you should never be just floating with the crowd, where you just in the mix. You just along for the ride. That's not what you should be doing. And so most people, they just floating with the crowd. So that's why every 3 years they on something new. So do y'all remember the Tea Party? Now we got the Tea Party, right? That was the big thing. Then that faded out. Then we got MAGA. Now when Trump leave, what MAGA gonna be? Because they already trying to figure out what the next thing is. That's why people like that white lady from Rome, Georgia, who looked like she's a Motley Crue fan. She trying to figure out what the next move is, because when Trump leave office, MAGA's over. So now what's going to be the next thing? But it's still going to impact the same people. So they're just floating with the crowd. Whatever these people who they've appointed as authorities tell them what the deal is, that's what the deal is. They don't really have nothing they're standing on over a length of time. The same people that voted for Kamala Harris, who don't have no real politics, they're going to wait for the Democratic Party to tell them who the next presidential candidate was. And that's who they're going to jump on. They don't have any real politics that they're pushing. I got on this show and I asked people, if you don't like this, what's your politics? Didn't nobody say nothing. Why? They don't have no politics. They wait for white people in DC to tell them what their politics are. And that's what they go with. Because they just floating with the crowd. You don't have certain things politically that you want to get done regardless of the administration. Don't have that. I wait for them to tell me what it is. Now, you're not supposed to say that. I'm supposed to say this person bad, that person bad. No, you don't have no politics. You don't have nothing you standing on regardless of who's in power. This is what you pushing. Because you just floating with the crowd. But you claim you know something and you got all this sense and people just don't see what's really going on. But you ask them what you pushing politically, regardless of administration. Nothing. Well, then you just floating with the crowd. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to get, this guy's going to leave office, right? He got 3 more years left. Really, once this year's over, once midterm's over, he's going to be a lame duck. He knows that everybody knows that that's the political system. Then they're going to transition into what the new era going to be, because he's going to be out of there, right? So what's going to be the new era? And then they're going to get all these people that was MAGA to jump onto this new era. They like the people that, well, whatever team, we're going to see this, whatever team win the Super Bowl, everybody going to be a fan of that team. Whatever team win the NBA championship, everybody a fan of that team. They're just floating with the crowd. No, good and well, they don't like that team like that. So that's just what goes on. So if you decide, here's a situation in which I need to lead, which most people don't want to do. They want somebody else to do it. That's how they end up floating with the crowd. Now, here's a situation where I need to follow somebody, because I realized they got a better plan than what I could come up with, and they got better execution in this particular area. So let me follow what they doing and add on to their situation. But most people just floating with the crowd, and they hoping that they can get what they want by just, because they don't want to lead, because that's going to mean they got to be put themselves out there and do work. And they don't want to follow nobody because they're too arrogant. Because, like I said, they got all the answers. So they'll just float with the crowd and complain and, you know, get on social media, yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, they're not going to never show nothing. But that's just how it goes. So again, if you don't fall into that bucket, you can outperform most people. If you just don't fall into that bucket. One of the biggest things that helped me and changed my life and really developed me as a person was saying, I'm going to lead in this particular area. And take what come with it. Take the frustration, take the stress, right? But it really developed me as a person, and it made me see things a lot more comprehensively, and it made me see the world in a much bigger picture. Why? Because I led. And I dealt with what come with leading, where people not going to want to do what you tell them to do. People going to want to do their own thing. People going to want to try to destroy what you built. You got to take all that come with it. Because once you get in that situation, then you start to see why other people in other situations doing what they're doing. But until you lead, you'll never understand that. So most people, their understanding of everything is just, I'm floating with the crowd. That's their understanding of the whole world, because they never put themselves in a different position to understand anything different. Let's keep going. Balance performance KPIs with creative outbursts. This for all my creatives. 2 or 3 days ago, I was thinking about doing a t-shirt line for the Retail Trader brand. You want to know why I didn't do it? Because it's not going to make me no money. I got 9,000 people on the YouTube. I'm not going to make no money off of that. So why would I take hours out of my day? Because I know me, I'll mess around and go down a rabbit hole and be worrying about colors and graphics and where we going to put the graphic on the shirt and da-da-da-da-da. And I'll spend hours on it. It's not going to make me no money. I'm not going to make no money selling merch to 9,000 people. Not a big enough audience, because most people are not going to buy anything. So what I tell my creatives, and this is something I used to talk about with the artist Flying Manly Prince up there out there in Minnesota, is we got to learn as creatives to balance our performance KPIs. What are things that we need to do to make money and push the ball down the field without creative outburst? Because I have things I want to do creatively with the brand, but I have to balance that with the performance KPIs. I can't just get so caught up in the creative stuff. I don't focus on making money, because the goal of the business is to make money. And what happens to a lot of creative people is they just get so caught up on the creativity, they don't focus on the business side, and they don't make any money. And let me tell you a secret. Even though this is America and there's a lot of opportunity here, 99.9% of the population will never be able to support themselves as a creative. That's just how it goes. The artist Flan Manley Prince is very fortunate to be able to support himself as a creative. He's blessed. 99% of the population here will never be able to do it. Most creatives got a 9-to-5 job and they just do some creative stuff. Therefore, if we are self-employed people as creatives, even though we're very creative, we can't get off of that and not have performance KPIs. What do I need to do today? What projects I need to be working on? When I need to get them done? And be consistent in doing that, as opposed to going down and create a rabbit hole and you looked up and you done lost your whole day looking at graphics. Because I can do that. Because I love art. I love stuff like that. So that's something people got to really understand if you really want to get to a level of success. Last, and before we get up out of here, stop living through random people. Kill that celebrity culture. Right? We got really, really talented creatives that come out of our community, right? We respect them. We love them. We're happy for them. But many people try to live through random people that they don't know. And it's because they're just floating. Years ago, people celebrated Jay-Z because they thought he was an owner of the Nets. Okay, big up to Jay-Z, whatever he got going on, big up to him. But you know what? They don't make $1. And they're not even using Jay-Z as a representation of I can do something similar. They're just happy because they're trying to live through Jay-Z owning a team. And what we see, especially now because of social media and so many people being exposed to celebrities, people literally can tell you everything about a celebrity, but can't tell you nothing about what's going to change their life. And they try to take what goes on with celebrities and apply it to their life and don't realize, man, them celebrities good. They all right. They good. They straight. They'll figure something out. They're not really going through what you're going through. You think they are, but they're really not. And this whole, and again, the social media created this whole rise of these Z-list celebrities. I never seen them like this in my life. You could have never told me when I was a child that Z-list celebrities would be important. When I was a kid, if you weren't at that top tier, then nobody even talk about you. So that's what you got to understand. But that's pretty much going to be it. Don't want to be too long. Appreciate your time. But I want to really encourage you. The secret to success is not anything really complicated. It's not really anything way out. It's just understanding certain principles and applying those day in and day out and just really cutting the noise out of your life. And there's nothing wrong with having fun and entertaining yourself. I don't want people to get that impression from me. I like to have fun. I like to entertain myself. I like to, do little things and have fun. But one thing I learned that I had to do for myself to be successful is to cut myself out of a lot of that mainstream stuff, because they had me on a hamster wheel and their job was to keep me on that hamster wheel because that's how they make their money. And it was never going to result in me having any success. It was just going to only result in them making money off of me. And I was going to stay in the exact same place I always was. And so once I realized that, now it's on me to do something about it. Not to just say, oh, I realize it and I know what they're doing and da-da-da-da-da, but I still keep engaging in the same behavior over and over again. Because why? That's what everybody else is doing. That's why a lot of people, when they come to me, they don't really have a lot to talk to me about, because I don't really deal with a lot of this stuff because I don't care, because it ain't got nothing to do with nothing. And it's not going to add up to nothing at the end of the day. And because I'm older than some of y'all, I spent so much time investing in some of this stuff. I know it ain't going to add up to nothing at the end of the day. So I'm not going to waste no more time on it. So that's going to be it. Hope y'all stay blessed, man. Stay encouraged. Talk to y'all later.